All right. Ever heard of the butterfly effect? You know, like a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and it sets off this crazy chain reaction, ends up causing a hurricane halfway across the world.
Right.
Wild, right? Well, today's deep dive, it's kind of like that, but instead of weather, we're talking tech.
Okay.
The technology butterfly effect. How these different technologies, they kind of bump into each other, and bam,
Yeah.
whole industries get flipped on their heads, even our everyday lives, you know? And we're not talking about some far-off future. This is going down right now.
Right.
So to help us break it all down, I've got an expert guide with me today.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's jump into the source material and really digs into this whole convergence thing.
Mm.
It says the technology butterfly effect. It's like dominoes, but instead of those little black and white tiles, you've got advancements, knowledge, ingenuity, tech, all smashing together in these totally unpredictable ways.
I like that analogy.
Right. And get this, it breaks down this whole convergence thing into like three main types.
Okay.
First up, we've got technology convergence, which is, you know, pretty self-explanatory. Different technologies, they blend together.
Yeah, makes sense.
Then it's like technology convergence with infrastructure convergence, kind of mouthful, but basically it's new tech hitching a ride on systems that are already out there in the world.
Right. Piggybacking.
Exactly. And then hold on to your hats, we've got compounded technology convergence. This is where it gets really wild. The more you use a tech, the more powerful it becomes. Like it feeds on itself. Right. So before we go full-on geek and dissect each of these with some real-world examples, can you give us the lay of the land? Why do these types of convergence even matter?
So here's the thing. We tend to think of tech advancements as these like isolated events, right? But the technology butterfly effect, it's saying, hold up, there's a bigger picture here.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
It's the convergence, this mashup of different technologies, often in ways we totally don't see coming, that leads to these massive game-changing shifts. And if we can get a handle on these different types of convergence, well,
It's like having a crystal ball.
exactly, we can start to anticipate, maybe even prepare for the curveballs that are coming our way.
Okay, I am so down for that. So let's ditch the abstract and get real world here.
Sure.
The source, it kicks things off with smart farming as an example of technology convergence, the Internet of Things,
Yeah.
big data, AI, robotics, all working together. Now, I know a thing or two about these technologies, but how does this whole convergence lens, how does it change how we see what's happening in agriculture?
Great question. It gets at the heart of the technology butterfly effect.
Okay.
It's not just about each piece of tech doing its own thing, it's the synergy, you know? When they all come together...
Like a tech supergroup.
Exactly. Take smart farming. We've had sensors, data analysis, even automated farm equipment for a while now. But it's the convergence, all these things powered by AI talking to each other through the Internet of Things, that's allowing farmers to do things that, frankly, used to be unthinkable.
Give me an example. What can a farmer do now with this interconnected tech web that they couldn't do before?
Imagine a farmer, right? They can check the moisture levels, the nutrients in the soil, even how healthy each plant is, all in real time across like hundreds of acres.
Oh, well.
That's the power of sensors and the Internet of Things. Now, layer on top of that the ability to analyze all that data, spot patterns, predict how much their crops are going to yield, when pests might attack, even the best time to harvest.
Hold on. You're saying AI can do all that just by looking at farm data?
That's where AI and big data come in, and it goes even further. Imagine robots right there in the fields, using all that intel to irrigate precisely, fertilize only where needed, even harvest crops with almost no human intervention.
Wait, you're telling me the future of farming is robots tending fields based on, like, instructions from AI that's crunching data from thousands of sensors?
Yeah.
This sounds like a sci-fi movie.
And yet, that's modern agriculture for you. It's happening right now.
Okay, so we've seen how technologies are blending together out there in the fields. What about an example of technology convergence with infrastructure convergence?
Okay.
I see the source points to Amazon as a prime example.
Interesting one. Right.
Yeah, but I'm a little stuck on this. I get that Amazon uses the internet, credit cards, the postal service, but
Yeah.
isn't that how pretty much every online business operates these days? What makes Amazon so special?
You're right. Those are everywhere, right? But Amazon, they were one of the first, they really got how powerful it could be to use that existing infrastructure in a totally new way.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think back to like the early days of buying stuff online. People were still freaking out about putting their credit card info out there. The whole idea of buying something you couldn't even touch, it felt risky.
Right.
Right.
And the whole system for shipping and delivery, it was a mess compared to now.
Oh, totally.
But Amazon, they were like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. They saw that by connecting these systems that are already out there, credit cards, the postal service, even the internet itself, they could create this totally new way to shop, something that was all about convenience, tons of choices, and of course, low prices.
So it's not just about using the systems, it's about seeing how they could, like, blow up an entire industry. It's like that saying, don't reinvent the wheel, just make it roll better.
Nailed it. And that's a big takeaway for anyone trying to wrap their head around this whole technology butterfly effect thing.
Okay.
It's not always about some crazy new invention. Sometimes it's about looking at what's already there, but in a totally new light, finding those unexpected combos that can really shake things up. Okay, I'm starting to see how this convergence thing works. Now, let's talk about this third type, compounded technology convergence, because this one's really got my head spinning.
Yeah, things get really interesting here.
The source uses Tesla, Elon Musk and all that,
Right.
as the prime example. And don't get me wrong, electric cars are cool, but break it down for me. How is Tesla an example of this compounding thing?
So it's not just about the electric car itself, it's how Tesla designed their whole system, right? Every single Tesla out there on the road, it's constantly gathering data, what the roads are like, how the driver's driving, even things like traffic patterns.
Like a rolling data center.
Exactly. And all that data, it gets beamed back to Tesla, and they use it to improve the AI that powers all Teslas, especially the self-driving stuff.
So every mile driven makes the self-driving software just a little bit smarter.
You got it. And that's where the compounding comes in, right? More Teslas on the road means more data, which means smarter AI, which makes Teslas even more attractive to buyers, which puts even more Teslas on the road.
It's like a snowball effect, but with artificial intelligence instead of snow.
Yeah.
This completely changes how I see Tesla. They're not just making cars, they're building this learning system that gets smarter with every mile driven.
Now, here's where it gets really mind-blowing.
Okay.
The source, it hints that Tesla might not even see themselves as just a car company in the long run. Think about it. They've got this massive stockpile of driving data, probably the biggest and most diverse in the world, and they could turn around and license out their self-driving software to other car companies.
Wait, so instead of selling cars, they'd be selling the brains behind the cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's like if the company that made your phone's operating system suddenly was like, hey, everyone, come get a piece of this.
Exactly the kind of shift we're talking about. And it all comes back to understanding the technology butterfly effect, especially this compounded convergence thing. It's about seeing those connections, those ripple effects, before they even really happen.
Okay, this is all starting to click. We've seen how converging technologies are transforming agriculture, how companies like Amazon are leveraging existing infrastructures in innovative ways, and how Tesla is leveraging data and AI to potentially upend the entire auto industry. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. We're just getting started.
This is all so fascinating, but I gotta admit, it's also a little intimidating. We're talking about massive changes to how we live and work, to the very fabric of society.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So how do we even begin to wrap our heads around all of this? How can we, the non-tech CEOs of the world, make sense of these technological shifts and maybe even get a glimpse of what's coming next?
It's a question a lot of us are wrestling with, and luckily the source, it actually gives us some tools for navigating this complexity. Two big ones: systems thinking and second-order thinking.
All right, those sound a little like buzzwords you'd hear in a business school lecture.
Maybe, but stick with me.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's start with systems thinking. What is that?
It's not as complicated as it sounds. Systems thinking is basically the ability to see things not as these isolated events, but as interconnected parts of a much larger system. Remember our smart farming example?
With the robots and AI.
That's the one. Systems thinking helps us connect those dots. We don't just see a jumble of technologies. We see how they work together as this system to create something way more powerful than any one technology could on its own. With smart farming, we're not just making individual tasks better, we're optimizing the whole darn agricultural system.
So like looking at the whole forest, not just focusing on one tree.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond just tech. Systems thinking can help us understand all sorts of complex challenges: the economy, healthcare, climate change, you name it. It's about seeing those connections, the feedback loops, those ripple effects.
Okay, that's making a lot of sense. So systems thinking is about understanding the web of connections. What about second-order thinking? Is that where we start trying to predict those butterfly effect moments, those unintended consequences?
You got it. Second order thinking is all about thinking beyond that initial obvious consequence of a decision or a technology. It's about asking yourself, and then what?
So with self-driving cars, a first-order thinker might say, awesome, no more car accidents.
Right, but a second-order thinker, they'd then be like, but hold on, what happens to all the truck drivers? How are cities going to change if we don't need parking lots anymore?
Whoa.
It's about thinking several steps ahead, just like in chess. And in this world that's being reshaped by all this converging technology, second-order thinking isn't just a good skill to have, it's crucial.
Okay, this is blowing my mind. It's not enough to just understand the tech itself. We got to understand the systems they're part of, the potential ripple effects. It's like we need to become tech detectives, always looking for clues about what might happen next.
I like that.
Okay, we've talked about specific technologies converging, but the source also keeps mentioning this digital economy thing. And I got to be honest, that part still feels a little fuzzy. What exactly does it mean for the economy to go digital, and how does it tie into all this convergence stuff?
It's a great question, and it's a shift that's already impacting us in huge ways. Think about it. In the past, most industries, they were all about the physical world. Manufacturing, farming, transportation, it was all about making and moving tangible things.
Right, like stuff you could actually touch.
Exactly. The digital economy is about the growing importance of digital goods and services. Software, data, online platforms, e-commerce, digital ads, even things like virtual reality experiences. These things, they don't have the same limitations as physical goods. You can create them, copy them, and beam around the world almost instantly, and for next to nothing.
Okay, so instead of buying a CD at the store, we stream music online. Instead of hailing a cab, we order an Uber on our phones. I get that those are digital services, but how is that reshaping the entire economy?
It's not just about individual products or services changing. It's about a fundamental shift in how value is created and exchanged. Companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're not just tech companies anymore. They're the big dogs of this new digital economy. Their products and services are changing how we talk to each other, how we get information, how we work, how we entertain ourselves, even how we think.
So it's not just about the technologies themselves, but about the fact that they're spawning entirely new industries and business models. It's like the internet, it didn't just change how we access information, it laid the foundation for this whole digital economy to emerge.
Exactly. And what's amazing is this shift, it's still in its early stages. We're just starting to grasp what this transition really means and the role converging technologies are going to play in shaping it.
So how do we even begin to make sense of something this big? The source brought up a company called NVIDIA and compared them to those selling shovels during a gold rush. What does that have to do with the digital economy?
Ooh, that's one of my favorite analogies in the whole source. It highlights how important it is to look beyond the obvious trends and understand the underlying forces at play. Everyone knows about the gold rush, right? But the real winners were often the ones selling the tools and supplies those miners needed.
So NVIDIA is like the shovel seller of the digital economy.
You got it. They make these super powerful computer chips, GPUs, and they're essential for all this AI stuff, data centers, cloud computing, even things like mining cryptocurrency. They might not be the ones making the flashy apps and platforms, but they're supplying the essential tools and infrastructure that the entire digital economy runs on.
So they were smart enough to realize that the real value wasn't just in the gold, it was in the tools people needed to dig it up.
Exactly. And their stock price shows it. NVIDIA is worth trillions of dollars, more than a lot of countries. It shows just how massive this shift to the digital economy is and how companies that can anticipate and position themselves strategically for this change stand to make a killing.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But with all this talk about the digital economy, it's easy to get lost in the abstract. What are some concrete examples of how this is going to affect our lives in a more tangible way?
One of the most exciting and potentially transformative areas is digital twins.
Digital twins, that's a new one. What are those exactly?
Imagine you could create a perfect digital copy of something in the real world. Could be
Yeah.
a product, a building, a factory, even a whole city. That's a digital twin. It's this dynamic, data-powered model that lives in the digital world, but it's connected to its real-world counterpart.
So like a digital blueprint, but way more advanced. Give me an example. How would a digital twin, say, of a building be useful?
Imagine you're an architect designing a skyscraper. With a digital twin, you're not just working with static blueprints anymore. You have this dynamic, interactive model that can simulate all sorts of things. You could use it to test how different design elements affect energy efficiency, how the building would handle an earthquake, even how crowds of people would move through it during an emergency. And because it's all digital, you can run thousands of simulations, test out countless scenarios, and find the absolute best design before you even lay the first brick.
That's incredible. It's like having a crystal ball for a building before it's even built. But you said digital twins could be used for more than just buildings.
Oh, absolutely. The possibilities are practically endless. Imagine digital twins of airplanes, helping engineers design them to be safer and more fuel efficient. Or digital twins of patients, allowing doctors to personalize treatments based on their unique medical history.
Okay, this is starting to sound like something out of a sci-fi movie. But I have to admit, it's also incredibly exciting. This could revolutionize so many industries.
And we're just scratching the surface here. When you start combining digital twins with other converging technologies like AI and the metaverse, things get really wild.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. We've talked about AI, we've talked about the metaverse, and now we have these things called digital twins. How do they all fit together? And more importantly, how does this tie back to this whole technology butterfly effect idea?
Well, you know how we were saying the digital economy is all about creating and trading value in the digital world, right?
Right, like instead of physical products, it's all about software, data, those kinds of things.
Exactly. Digital twins and the metaverse, they take that to a whole other level.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think of it like this. Digital twins are the building blocks, the digital versions of real stuff, and the metaverse is like this huge, interconnected virtual space where those twins can hang out and like interact.
So it's not just like copying things into a computer, it's building entire digital worlds, right?
You got it. Instead of just having a digital twin of your car, imagine a metaverse where that digital twin car is driving around on digital twin roads, reacting to digital traffic lights and other digital cars, all in real time. And all that activity creates this feedback loop of data and insights that can then be used to make things better in both the digital and physical worlds.
Whoa, so the metaverse is like a giant sim world, a testing ground for all these innovations that can then be applied to the real deal.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond testing, too. Imagine architects collaborating on a digital twin city in the metaverse, tweaking the design and seeing the results instantly. Or surgeons practicing complex surgeries on digital twin patients to minimize risks in real-life operations.
Okay, that's some next level stuff right there. But let's be real for a second. Not everyone is ditching their couches and strapping on VR headsets to disappear into the metaverse just yet. Is this really going to be as huge as everyone's saying, or is it just hype?
It's definitely more than just hype. The pieces are all there, you know. We've got the tech to create immersive virtual experiences, connect millions of people in real time, and handle massive amounts of data. And the thing is, and the source makes this point really well, the most groundbreaking changes aren't always about inventing something totally new. Sometimes it's about connecting existing technologies in ways no one has thought of before.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Think about how social media platforms like Instagram or TikTok combined smartphone cameras, GPS, and social networking to create these whole new ways of making content, communicating, and interacting with each other.
They tapped into that basic human need to connect and share and just gave people the tools to do it in ways that seemed unimaginable just a few years earlier.
Exactly, and I think we're seeing something similar play out with digital twins, AI, and the metaverse. These technologies, they have the potential to completely change how we work, learn, socialize, even just experience the world. Will we embrace all those possibilities? Who knows? But the potential's there for sure.
This has been mind-blowing. Smart farms, self-driving cars, digital twins, and the metaverse. We've covered so much ground. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the technology butterfly effect, what are the big takeaways you hope our listeners leave with today?
To me, the most important thing to remember is this. We're living in a world where technology is changing faster than ever. But those changes, they don't happen in a vacuum.
Each one impacts the other.
Exactly. And that's what the technology butterfly effect shows us, right? What seem like small advancements can collide in ways we never expected, causing ripples that can shake up entire industries and change the very way we live. Understanding this interconnectedness, this butterfly effect, is crucial for anyone who wants to not just survive, but actually thrive in this crazy, fast-paced world.
So it's not about trying to predict the future perfectly, but about having the right tools and mindset to handle a future that's becoming more complex and unpredictable every day.
Exactly. And that's where systems thinking and second-order thinking come in. By developing those ways of thinking, we get better at spotting those early warning signs, understanding those unintended consequences,
Hmm.
and making decisions that aren't just based on the present, but on the many possible futures we're creating with the choices we make today.
The best way to predict the future is to create it, right? But in this world shaped by the technology butterfly effect, it's more like the best way to prepare for the future is to understand how to anticipate its many, many potential paths.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been an awesome conversation, so much to think about. Huge thanks to you, our expert guide, for navigating us through this wild world of converging technologies.
My pleasure. I had a blast.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you some fresh insights to help you make sense of the world around you. Stay curious, keep exploring, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.